Guys, welcome back to a brand new episode of Full Time Reds. Today is a very exciting episode, something that I've been planning for a couple of weeks. Before we get into the episode, please do drop us a subscribe, comment what you'd like to see on the channel, and drop us a like. Today's going to be a long one. We're going to go in depth. I'm very excited today to have somebody that I admire, somebody who's doing excellent work from a tactical aspect, somebody that analyzes the game, a fellow Manchester United fan, huge on TikTok. Welcome, Coach Rafaz. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you for having me on. As always, our first podcast was very, very enjoyable. So I thought that was around 2, 3 months ago, but same problems, if not worse, at Man United.
Yeah, in today's episode, we'll probably have a look at. I'm just looking at my notes here. We'll have a. What I want to do is, I want to look at it overall of Manchester United rather than individual games because you know and I know the common mistakes are throughout the season. It's not like the different mistakes each time, and they'll probably carry on Saturday as well. We look at the managerial circle, which I was discussing with you off air, which I find very, very interesting and a bit unusual. And I'm going to look at how we should line up next season, what changes you feel need to happen, and we'll take it from there. It'll be a general chat between two football fans that are just giving a view from an everyday point of view rather than trying to be Gary Neville or trying to be Jamie Carragher. It's just pure football talk, Man United based, and hope people enjoy it. But how have you been anyway? You've been busy since we last spoke?
Yes, very busy. Yeah, so just busy as you can see with the content and some various opportunities coming up within football. So just showing to everyone, like, if you have a voice and you use social media properly, so many opportunities will show up for you. Yeah.
Yeah, and the other thing as well is that you don't need to be uh what we call um uh you don't need to be UEFA A.
No,
You can just your
no.
point of view on how you see it, and we live in a world where stats are huge. At the moment, stats are everyone's driving off stats, but old school managers like Ancelotti, I was looking at, and Gasparini last night was saying
Yeah.
basically it's quite simple. Defend as a team, get the ball to your best players, and just it's
Literally.
quite straightforward. It's not, and I feel the game has gone very like that Dutch style of even the centimeter off. And I remember when Van Gaal was at United, he was like strict on which way the ball went. And I was
Yeah.
watching. I don't know if you've seen Ashley Cole's interview on Talk Sport about Antonio Conte and how strict he is. Like, if
Yeah.
you get the ball, your body has to be like, and it has to go this way. And if you don't do that, he loses his rag. But
I mean,
I'm
I've
glad.
heard that. I mean, I've heard that same thing with Ange Postecoglou as well at Tottenham. It's the same thing. So it's like, if the ball goes here, you only have three options. Don't think outside of these three. And I'm thinking, I mean, fair enough. If it works, it works. And I've seen it work, obviously, with Pep Guardiola, with obviously Postecoglou as well. But personally, as a coach, I want my players to play freely, and then I just focus on the defensive bit, because obviously that's the most important off the ball. That requires the most amount of focus. That's me personally, but obviously Pep
Yeah, yeah,
Guardiola.
and just to your original point of social media, I think it's about giving. You don't need to be offensive to anyone. You don't need to, know more. It's just what your eye sees. Like, to
Yeah,
me, I watch just touching on that game yesterday. I watched that, and somebody that's not watched a lot of Bayer Leverkusen. I watched it from a pure fan point, and I thought Atalanta just schooled them
yeah.
on what nobody else could do, and that's how I just saw it. But we'll touch upon that, and we'll come back to that. Um, Looking at um, Manchester United, which is the hot topic every day, every hour across the globe. What's your? I know we touched it in the last podcast where we broke games down, but just from a coaching aspect, what's your tactical observation on last season, which has just finished?
So yeah, I would say Ten Hag's inability to adapt to the situation has resulted in what we've seen.
Mm,
And I'm pretty sure you've seen the interview with Gary Neville, right? The half
yeah.
an hour. So he said, "Oh, I could go into a 4-4-2 low block and counter attack, but that's not the style that we want. And I'm thinking, okay, fine, we all respect a manager having a style, but given the current situation, given the plays that you have on the break in a counter attack, don't you think, just logically as a football fan, it's the best way to set up? Because when you have so many injuries, that's fine. You have so many different centre back partnerships. Of course, it's very difficult to build some momentum. So then, logically, from my perspective, from the amount of knowledge I have or whatever, I personally think setting up without the ball and then playing on counter-attacking opportunities, using your fast players on the wings, is the way forward for that temporary moment. And then, if it still doesn't work, then you could say, look at my situation. What do you want me to do? That's how I see it. But him sticking to that style, those open holes in the middle on either side of the centre defensive midfielder, and then that cutback that always happens. When you see the same problems happening again and again, yes, I understand. I can empathise with Ten Hag. Yes, there are so many injuries, but to what extent can we keep saying, "Oh, it's injuries, injuries, injuries"? That doesn't.
Yeah, I was in Dubai a couple of weeks ago, and by coincidence, I was watching. I think, without trying to sound fucking high flying, I was basically watching the Manchester United game mid-air.
Okay.
Emirates show it live, which was shocking to me. But Man United Arsenal was I was watching it, and they had. My point is, the feed was my Sports 24, I think the channel. They had Michael Owen and somebody else on, and Michael Owen, even though he gets a lot of criticism, he does make good points. What he was saying was they look very badly coached.
Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah,
Yeah, and he goes, considering Steve McLaren's there and Ten Hag is supposed to be a good coach, and Van der Gaag there, he goes, they just look really badly coached. Like if you look at Atalanta and as an example yesterday,
yeah,
I was like, this is I'm not as a United fan, I would love that. They had players that knew exactly what to do
yeah.
there. They knew how to open up. They had overload. It was as soon as it went wide to Frimpong and the guy on
It
the
would
other
just
side, they
go.
were onto
Yeah,
him straight away.
yeah.
Straight away, they were onto him. It was very well coached. So I was like, do you agree with that, or do you think it is the injuries, or do you think it's just really bad coaching as well, which lies at the feet of Ten Hag? Then
Exactly. I would lean more to the second point because I've seen other clips where, let's say, when Onana has the ball, no centre back is peeling off to open up the game to ask for the ball. So what's the message? Is it to go long? But if it's to go long, there are other players showing for the ball. So there's no clear identity because you have players like Amrabat wanting the ball to feet, and then there was a clip where Mainu wanted to kick it long from goal kicks. So Mainu was pointing to Onana to go, Amrabat showing to feet, Maguire's not showing for the ball, and I'm thinking, okay, so this level of disorganisation, yes, there are injuries, but no matter who's playing, they're professional footballers, and if you give them enough detailed instructions, they should be able to execute it. It's that
I
simple.
saw. Did you see the Onana interview with Gary Neville?
I haven't seen that yet, but
Right.
literally,
So
yeah,
in that he goes, when I have the ball in Italy, I might get an extra few seconds, and then you can you have a bit more time to look and move. He goes, in England, I maybe have 2 seconds because here everything's fast. So he goes, the reason I'm going long is I can't see anyone that's free in that period. And he
okay,
goes, so my issue is that, and what I'm reading is that most of the guys don't want it because if he's going long, you're going to have to go for 50-50s and we don't go for 50-50s. He goes, I get it. And he goes straight away there. Most of the time, the centre forward from the other team is coming onto you. So he goes, I've got 2 seconds to look for a player who's free and I need to get it to him. And he goes, if there's no one free, I have to get rid of it. Otherwise, we're going to get turned over. And I found that really interesting, considering what you're saying as well. I think it's just fucking all over the show, and it just hasn't
yeah.
stopped all season.
But that's the thing. So if Onana is saying this in a public interview, surely he must have mentioned this to Ten Hag. And then Ten Hag, what's he doing then? Is he's telling Onana to go long, which is fine, but then everyone needs to go up to compete. So I still don't. I'm still not
Yeah,
sure.
but exactly. If you're going long, then bar Rasmus, our wingers are not going for it. Bruno doesn't really go for 50s. He does that thing where he stands a bit like that, hoping the other guy falls over him, and you're gonna get turned over. But if me and you can see this,
That's the thing. We've had this exact conversation. I remember when we had our
Last
first.
time, and it just carried on. It's been
Yeah,
carrying on, and it's just I gave up. Even that commentary game, the two games that broke my back were the Tottenham game at home. I mentioned that last time where I
yeah,
felt they played their third-rate midfield with Harry
yeah,
Winks, I think it was, and they played us off the pitch at Old
yeah,
Trafford. And that commentary game, I was like, this is ridiculous because
yeah.
this is like you know
Yeah.
it's a sign of insanity, isn't it? You're doing the same thing but expecting different results.
And even Sheffield United at home, 4-2 victory, but it
Yeah,
was 2-1 down at
2-1
home.
down. Even
Yeah,
the Burnley game wasn't very good, and that was poor. They've all been poor.
yeah.
I've not seen one game. I'm comparing it to like just because we're recording this on Thursday to the Atalanta game yesterday. I've not seen that level of performance anywhere, and to me, the Atalanta level of performance is the bare minimum.
And exactly. And if you look at Atalanta in possession yesterday, they just went long, competed for the second balls, played quick passes, gave it to Lookman, gave it to De Catalare, and then they just made things happen.
Yeah, but
And
Raf,
then
if you're not going to compete for the second ball, you shouldn't go long.
that's the point.
If
But
Rashford, I
exactly.
know, look, I know Rashford doesn't fancy going in the air. Your Anthony or Garnacho are not strong enough to go in the air. Bruno doesn't fancy going in the air. Then you're relying on Rasmus to go in the air. And if he's marked by two, for example, they're not going to go to him. You're going to get turned over again and again and again and again. And
So, yeah,
it's just crazy.
and this is my point as a coach or to Ten Hag watching every single game with the video analyst that he has, seeing this, what's he doing about it? And that's my main issue. So when I watched that Ten Hag interview, I fully like empathize with him when he said anyone with football knowledge would understand centre back partnerships is one of the most important things. And then he went on to show like, okay, this I wanted Frankie De Jong, I wanted Harry Kane, that didn't work. Okay, fine, but then what are we going to do about it?
Absolutely.
That's the main thing.
Yeah, so if we take a coach, according to social media, who's past his sell-by date, Jose Mourinho, who I
Yeah,
don't, he was very famous for adapting to the other team and having a set game plan. So he was always about like they're going to do this and we're going to do this. This is how we're going to stop them, right? Very famous for it, hugely successful across the globe in setting up teams. Like I remember when Klopp bought Liverpool to United and they were doing really really well, and he just bypassed the midfield and the press and went long to Lukaku, who'd spin it off to Rashford, and that was very simple. Just
yeah,
miss everyone, go straight to Lukaku, who'd win, go for the
yeah,
50-50 against Van Dijk. But at the time, he was peeling off against Matip, I think, and they would get Rashford in the game, and I think Rashford scored two in that game.
yeah.
But I feel modern day coaches, the newer coaches, are like, it's my way or the highway.
Exactly. And that's where, once again, you see United's problems this season. That's where it gets exposed. For example, just like Roberto De Zerbi. That's why I don't really want De Zerbi at Man United as much as I love what he's doing because at this sort of club right now where it's up and down, someone like De Zerbi comes in, it's my way or the highway. You have Maguire standing on the ball.
Yeah, no chance.
What's going to
You'll
happen?
get that Brentford what happened against Ten Hag's first game all over again.
Yeah, I mean that was 4-0, was it?
4-0, yeah.
Yeah, and just looking at that, like personally, that's why coaches like Ancelotti or Gasperini from Atalanta, these coaches are very, very top because they always adapt to what they're being given because ultimately it's a 50-50 game until it's the 90th minute. You can't just say, okay, it's my way. The opposition are doing something that is clearly affecting your game plan and you still want to stick to it.
I
Yeah,
saw Ancelotti's interview, and he goes basically, we have a defensive setup where you've got to do your job,
yeah,
and then when we've got the ball, he goes, if Bellingham wants to go up top, it's all
yes,
right, and
yes,
if Vinicius Junior wants to go a bit deeper, he goes, it's all right, no problem. But because I'm going off Guardiola and then that Dutch kind of system, which is very very rigid, it's very strict,
yeah,
and I think in leagues like Eredivisie or other leagues, you can get away with it. Here, even the bottom team, like you just mentioned, Sheffield United, they can turn up and put you 2-1 down very, very quickly. They
yeah,
all have technically good players. They all can play. It's
yeah,
not the days of Stoke and West Brom just pumping it up. And they can all have a tactically astute game plan. which can work to an extent. Look at Palace went to Liverpool and turned them over and took them out
Yeah,
of the title race.
yeah, exactly. It's just personally, once again, it just shows at this level of modern football. Yes, you could have the best game plan, the clearest identity, but when it comes to it, how quick are you at adapting? Because the opposition have done hours and hours of analysis on you, so you need to be ready for that quick adaptation. But clearly, Ten Hag has struggled with that.
I remember when Jose used to make subs in the first half. Do you remember?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
and it was very like unusual at the time. I remember he did it to Joe Cole at Old Trafford, took him off after 30 minutes. And it's like, wow, and but that's high level of management. That's why he's paid the big bucks. And I just feel these managers these days are just stuck in that it's my way or the highway. If we go down, we go down. What's your thoughts regarding Ten Hag generally? Has it changed over the season? Are you more like he should be given time, or are you like I have not seen anything for me to think he needs time?
at the start of the season, I kept saying it's not his fault. It's the players. It's the injuries. It's not his fault. But then, as I saw one bad result after the other, bad performance after bad performance, then I started thinking, how much leeway can we give a manager? And that's why now I am leaning more towards a new change, a new manager coming in for a fresh start than him staying. Because once again, what if next season we get more injuries? Then what?
Yeah,
That's my big issue.
I think the big issue they've got is um, he's got next year's his last season, and I think they've got a year that they can extend it on.
Okay.
But I think in reality is if they get into next season, because they're gonna have to back him or sack him. They can't go into next season saying, "Well, we're still 50-50 on him," because signings are going to want to know who they're playing for long term. And secondly, if they start the season badly, which can happen based on this season's form, you don't want to get into October, November having to sack him, bringing somebody in temperate and write another season off.
Yeah.
So they either say, "You're the guy, we understand, here's a new 3 years, let's go for it," or see later. They can't be sat on the fence on this, in my opinion.
And I've heard that it all actually depends on Saturday. I've heard some sources. I don't know if that's how true they are,
I
yeah,
I think is if my opinion is he's done and dusted because the reason I say that is they've not backed him publicly once.
ah,
If you look at it, Ineos have not backed him publicly once. And if they are to base the whole decision on one game, which is against City, it's a cup final, it's a 50-50, it's a derby, anything can happen, then that would have me worried about
yeah,
Ineos and their way of operating because you're writing off a full season and going off one game against City where you can easily win or you can, it's just anything, it's a neutral venue. So I think they would have made the decision by now. I'm pretty sure they would have.
that's
And
interesting because when I saw his speech at Old Trafford, um, he just seemed very relaxed, which was interesting. I don't
yeah,
know.
but
Yeah,
Raf, just to give you an insight, if you look at it, what month are we in now? May and June, right? If you look
yeah,
at it historically, in May and June, we have articles coming out left, right, and center from the Athletic, from whoever, saying this is Manchester United's transfer plan. The leaks are constant about what we're going to do in the summer. It's very quiet. It's just hints of journalists saying we don't. Maybe he'll go. Maybe he's not. Just sitting on there. No one actually knows.
yeah.
It's very tight-lipped at the moment. If you notice that compared to previous, very very like who we linked with Bar Elise, and you're not hearing of. It's only journalists saying Branthwaite, Tadibo. You're not really hearing concrete top-level journalists saying much.
Right. Yeah. So that would be interesting then, but because I read somewhere it said it's just about the performance on Saturday. It doesn't matter if it's a win or loss. It's just like can we see something? But as you said,
But
one
come on,
game. Yeah.
right? Okay, let's say we beat City, right? We beat them 2-1. We win. Is that strong enough to write off what's happened over the past nine
Exactly.
months?
Exactly. Yeah.
And
Yes.
that'd have me worried like a Chelsea fan.
Yeah.
Thinking, fucking hell, they've just gone off one game against City, pure passion that we beat them, which we could beat them, and that's it. Is good enough, and that would. It's not a good look,
Yeah.
that in my opinion.
Yeah. I mean, you just mentioned Chelsea. I'm just looking at Pochettino as well potentially because he's. I really wanted Pochettino a couple of years ago. I think it was before Solskjaer. Just because I've always liked the way he works with clubs like Man United. Not the greatest, not the worst. Right now, they're in a situation where look, eighth place finish in the league. I think
Mm.
him coming in, looking at the situation, looking at the players, what he's done at Chelsea. He's rode the waves, and then he finally got them to a very good sixth place. So he's definitely, personally for me, a strong candidate. If you know,
100%. Which is kind of, I think he did an exceptional job at
yeah,
Chelsea. You
yeah.
know, considering if you look at the players, most of them players are shit.
I
Honestly,
don't.
they are really shit. Some of them, like that Jackson, whoever signed him, is
Yeah,
beyond me. Um, Look, he's at Gallagher at 10. He's terrible. Like I know he's hard, but he cost him the game against I think the League Cup against Liverpool. He
yeah,
cost
yeah.
as much as he had. They have bought a lot of bad players, and I thought he did an exceptional job. It took him a bit of time figuring out what's what,
Which
and
is
he got to
normal.
a point where he figured out Enzo Fernandez wasn't for him, and he went with a system, he went with a style of play, and he got him to sixth. And I thought that was really really good,
Yeah.
considering it was a young team. They didn't really have a striker, and he is a very very good coach. Would you like anybody else? Is there anybody else that catches your eye that would work really well at Manchester United?
I think Tuchel as well. Just those two. At the stage that Man United are at, even Thomas Frank from Brentford, I think he still needs a bit of like squad security before he can implement what he wants to do. But I'm looking at Tuchel, Pochettino, Tuchel looking at what he's done. 2020 PSG Champions League final. Mbappe missed so many chances. Who knows, right? 2021 Champions League final, winning it with Chelsea. This year, so close to getting to another Champions League final with that turbulent
It was
Bayern
fine
Munich.
margins, though. It was fine margins.
Exactly. So I'm looking at what he's done in Europe, what he's done at club level. I just genuinely think Tuchel coming in, he'll look at the situation, he'll be like, okay, forget my game style. I'm going to adapt, make sure everyone plays at their best. We have this, and that's really it. So, yeah, I personally would lean more towards Tuchel at the moment.
You know, Tuchel's a top coach. There's no doubt about it. I never used to rate him. I'll tell you
Wow.
something
Okay.
funny. I used to think, oh, he's at PSG, he's at Dortmund, it's easy. And then I saw him at Chelsea, and I remember a game against Liverpool at Anfield. His team was exceptional. You know
Yeah.
the way he set them up, even against Madrid, at Bernabeu. He had a game plan.
Yeah.
He had it sussed to the T. Even when he sussed Arsenal out, when he put Goretzka and is it Lima
Yeah.
in the middle, and they were workhorses, and that change against Madrid, they were unlucky. And
Exactly.
fine margins can happen. He's an exceptional coach. Exceptional. What
Exactly.
what about you mentioned Thomas Frank there as and I'm in the same thought process as you, where you've got your top tier of coach of Tuchel. You can put um, uh, Pochettino in that kind of bracket because he's managed a bigger club. Then when you go one level down, you do have Thomas Frank, and the most and I won't say his name because I'll butcher it, but the guy at Atalanta,
Gasparini. Yeah.
right? And then you've got Unai Emery as well, who doesn't get linked with any big jobs, and doesn't get the credit for killing Arsenal's title charge off, right?
Yeah.
Why do you think them three are not linked with big jobs? But they're very, very good.
I think Gasparini once did say, "I don't want a big club because I wouldn't be able to." He said there's so many things happening behind the scenes at big clubs that
Because he was at Inter before, wasn't he?
yeah, I think so. And I think he left, but the way I see with Gasparini is it's just like Conte. He would just leave even if the team's successful. So I don't think any big club would even trust him that much because with Conte, he won the league with Inter Milan, then he left straight away because the board said something or they didn't want.
Yeah, he's an emotional guy, Conte. He's very emotional.
So I think Gasparini just wants to stay with that close knit squad that he's built at Atalanta, and I don't think I can see him leaving anytime soon. Um, with
Thomas
Unai
Frank.
Emery, yeah, Unai Emery, Thomas Frank. I think Unai Emery as well. It just doesn't seem like he's going to leave now that he's got Aston Villa to Champions League. Even though, yeah, he would do just like what he did with Sevilla. I mean, wow, I'm looking at Man United right now, and I'm thinking this very similar to like a Sevilla standard, like not too high, not too low. And then Thomas Frank as well, another very good coach with Brentford. But then I don't think he is the answer right now to Man United. 'Cause I don't think he's. I think United need someone with authority, just like Tuchel. They need that sort of a name to come in and say, "Look, we've been awful the last few years, and this is the way forward."
You know, uh, Thomas Frank and Unai Emery, especially. I'm shocked that considering Liverpool went for Arnie Sloth, they should have just gone for one of them if that was the type of person they wanted.
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah,
You know, like really, he's at Feyenoord. You know,
yeah, that's
if you're gonna if you're saying that basically we want just a pure and out top coach, that's it. Who just we give him the play. Thomas Frank and Unai
yeah.
Emery are top. Like in my opinion, like I don't know why even other top clubs like Bayern haven't gone for him. They'd be easy to get out of there.
Barca,
But Barcelona are about to announce Hansi Flick. I just saw.
is it?
Yeah. I rate Hansi Flick. I think he's a very front-footed manager.
Yeah,
Um,
me too. But is this latest news, right?
yeah. It's going to be confirmed today. It's going to be done. Um,
Wow,
yeah, Hansi Flick. But they
wow.
were looking at him all year. He was the
Yeah,
only one that was linked to him.
and then Xavi was like on and off. So yeah, and another coach just like Tuchel, another German is Hansi Flick. Nagelsmann, but he's staying
He's
at
staying
Germany.
at Germany. Yeah,
Yeah, I would have loved Nagelsmann, but Hansi Flick as well.
Hansi Flick's teams that bind team were ripping teams to shreds. Nobody could cope with them. They went to New Camp and turned them over.
Yeah, exactly. And that sort of a team, that sort of a manager, you can tell he's very straightforward. It's either yes or no, and he has a play style, but once again, you can sense that he will adapt to the team. He will adapt to the opposition. He will adapt to the Premier League, and it's a shame he's going to Barcelona, which is a big jump for him because also he hasn't had. I don't think he's had a full year of managerial experience as well. I don't think he has. But whenever he has been a manager, he's been top.
Yeah, absolutely. He has. But it's interesting to see how this kind of pans out. What I'm just trying to pull this up whilst I've got you. Hang on, let me remove this. Let me bring it back on to screen. There we go. Right, let me go. Let me transition this. You know, this is very interesting. I was speaking to you off air about this. I'm hoping you can shed some light on this because I just don't get what's going on here. I'm not understanding when it comes to managerial appointments how people that are at Ipswich, McKenna, Company, Burnley, and I forgot the guy's name at Leicester, how
Maresca.
these guys are getting linked to high-end pressurized jobs. Like why is that? Like they can't if they're decent to get promoted, but Company got promoted last year and went straight on. Other managers have got promoted. I remember Neil Atkins, he did a double promotion with Southampton. Doesn't mean he's ready for the Bayern Munich job. Why do you think these younger coaches are now suddenly sought after?
I think it's because they have a clear identity as a manager. So McKenna has one style of football that is very obvious. So I think as an elite club, supposedly it just looks appealing to get a manager in that will play a particular style of football. But once again, I would look at other managers at the elite level before going for them because they need a whole year of Premier League experience.
Yeah, because
100% needs a Premier League year under his belt.
McKenna is like they're touting him to be like. I'm surprised he's being linked over somebody like Inzaghi, who's proven at top level. Like, why no one's looking at Inzaghi? Italian coaches generally are doing really well.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
So for somebody to say Inzaghi, McKenna, he might go Brighton. Oh, don't go Brighton. United are talking to you. He's holding his own. Chelsea want to do the deal before Saturday because they're worried he's going to United. I'm like, really? Is that the is that how bad the market is, or is that how The guys that are making the decisions are just jumping on popular names.
Yeah, I think it's popular names just to build up the team image or something like. Yeah, because personally, I'm looking at Maresca. Yes, he's done a brilliant job at Leicester. McKenna from League Two, League One, Championship, Premier League. Yes, that's fine. But then once again, as you said, it's a different ball game. We're looking at what Bayern Munich at the elite level. At the moment, you are second in October. There's pressure on you. They don't want to be second. That's the
Yeah,
main thing. Like
absolutely. It's absolutely. I just don't get the crack on it. I'm like, all right, they must be. They're good. They've done well. But then, if that's the criteria, so with the criteria is if you do well in the championship, you play good football, and you get promoted, you're very good. So that means the guy at Leeds, I forgot his name now. He used to be at Norwich. He'll come to me.
Bielsa.
No, no, no. The Leeds manager right now. 1 second. I'll tell
Okay.
you right now. Is Leeds manager is Daniel Farke. Is that the one? Daniel
Okay.
Farke.
I'm not. I haven't heard of him.
Yeah. So he got Norwich promoted by playing for front foot football. Came to the Premier League. He's about to get Leeds promoted. They're in the final next week. So then he should be looked for a job. Then he should be up there. If the criteria is just get through to from the Championship playing for Bielsa should be getting mentioned everywhere. Then it's just
Yeah.
crazy. The quality is, and I'm like, I'm sat here and I'm looking at if somebody said Thiago Motta to me, I get it because for what he's done with the team in Serie A, he's took it up. I get it. I
And
think you know
Amarim
what,
as well from Sporting.
absolutely, I
Yeah.
get that. You think, all right, I see what's going on here. I kind of, but when they said McKenna, company is on his way to Miami. I'm like, this is just crazy. Well, these guys just haven't got a clue. You're best off not even hiding them because if the scrutiny at the top clubs is crazy, buying they have like 5 newspapers dedicated to him.
Yeah. At Bayern Munich, it's honestly, if you're second in October, November, if you're struggling in the Champions League group stage, if you're second or first, or if you're struggling, there's pressure on you. Like 100%. No one's gonna give you time at Bayern. That's why they've had a lot of managerial turnovers in the past 4 or 5 years.
I hope coming back just to Manchester United. I hope they don't appoint a McKenna. Um, I think that's a disaster because the players just won't respect him. In my opinion,
Yeah,
they didn't
that's another
respect him.
problem as well. Yeah, it's once again, McKenna could be someone when the stage is set, which is 2 3 years time, when he's got experience, when United have stabilised. But even then, you would look at more elite managers, and that's nothing to take away from what McKenna's done. He's been phenomenal, but I'm just looking at McKenna and then Manchester United, like all these big names. Then looking at other managers available, such as Amorim, Tuchel, Pochettino, Inzaghi, and De Zerbi. I'm looking at those names. And I'm thinking,
Yeah, and I don't buy into this like, oh, he's young, he can work. Mate, I remember Nagelsmann when Muller wasn't having it off him because he was older. Muller, he
yeah,
just
yeah, yeah,
wasn't having it, and he was telling him to basically get lost, and that
yeah.
undermined him. And here McKenna was there already. The players didn't rate him then; they're not going to rate him now. And even still, the criteria needs to be a lot higher to be a Manchester United manager because the last thing you also want to do is you don't want to kill the guy's career off. Do you know what I mean? Like Moyes, it took Moyes years to recover from that United sacking, and you don't want to do that to somebody as well. So I don't think he should be looked at, in my opinion. Who would you, if I, so except for Tuchel, he's the obvious one. Is there anyone that stands out that's a bit under the radar that you think could do a good job at United?
I mean, I'm just looking at Pochettino,
Yeah,
whether that's under the radar or not. Just those two managers, so much experience in the Premier League at clubs, for example, Tottenham, Chelsea, not the big three, Arsenal, City, Liverpool at the moment, but not also like bottom half of the table. Just clubs where they'll come in and they'll stabilize them. And when they stabilize them, then in 2 3 years, you could look at if you want a fresh start or if things aren't going to plan when you have stability, which is top four, 3 seasons in a row, competing in the Champions League. Then you're looking at De Zerbi, if he's available, in Zag. Then you're looking at those elite managers. But at the stage they're at, Tuchel or Pochettino, and more so Tuchel, because maybe Pochettino might want a year off. I don't know. That's literally how I'm looking at it.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think I think Pochettino is just written in the stars, isn't it?
That is
He's
another
been
thing
linked
because
every time
yeah, he
to
was
that
linked
job.
before as well. He's
He
been
was
heavily,
linked.
yeah,
He was linked before Solskjaer got it, and then Solskjaer got sacked. He was at PSG. I remember very
yeah.
clearly. It was he was pushing for it then because he wanted out of PSG, and we didn't go with him. And I think it's now or never for him. But I think he's somebody who is a good coach. He's a good coach, and if you give him the right tools, well, if McKenna's a good coach, then then Pochettino's a world class coach. Then really, because if that's the criteria, I still can't get over this fun fest around McKenna. I just don't get it. Just coming last part on Manchester United. Formations are quite interesting now, and you're going through, I think, a very interesting time in football where, to me, it's similar to when clubs went to when Guardiola went 4-3-3 with Barca, and he really propelled that formation. And I think you're going through a stage where I think the 3-5-2 or three, however but the three at the back is getting very, very popular. I saw it yesterday as well, and I remember Solskjaer used to play it as well, and it was quite effective. Do you see, in your opinion, next season Manchester United working in a totally different formation? Let's say the manager was Pochettino or Tuchel. Do you see them being set up different rather than the traditional 4-2-3-1?
It just depends on the players they bring in because at the moment they are not suitable. Like the players that they have for a back three, those three centre backs, they have to cover the wide areas and then be very confident on the ball. And therefore, United are
What
not
what
anywhere
what
near.
formation would you think would suit United with the current players we do have?
Just what Ten Hag is playing is fine. The 4-2-3-1 is just the system and the instructions being given are just completely wrong. Because once again, defensively, where is the shape? Because a 4-2-3-1 defensively is just basically two blocks of four and then a one and a one. Very compact. If you have triggers to press out wide, just like Atalanta did last night, it would be very effective. But with obviously what we've seen, you have five players pressing, four players
Yeah, it goes
camping,
man to man, doesn't he?
man to man. But then four players are camping outside of our own box, then one in the middle, exposed on either side. So I think that the formation is fine. It's just nowadays in modern football, it's the instructions. It's in possession. When you have the ball, what shape is it? When you don't have the ball, what shape is it? Yeah,
I just to kind of verify what you said. I watched an interview of Big Sam. Right,
yeah,
I'm a bit of a Big Sam fan. I like him, and they asked him what was your secret to getting teams staying in the league. He goes, "We turn up and we just simplify it. When you
yeah.
get the ball, you're gonna do this, and that's it. And when you don't have the ball, this is all you do." So he
Exactly.
goes, usually the thing was get the ball to the winger, the winger gets it in, right? Whip it in, and then we'll try getting a ball or the second, and we'll win the second ball. He goes, it was really as straightforward as that. There was no magic like structure. He goes, it was just, and when we don't have the ball, make sure you here, stay with him, and just talk to each other. And he goes, a very simplified way of working, and he goes, it worked really well for us. And I suppose you're right. Ours are very complicated. It looks. Van Gaal, do you remember Van Gaal? His was really complicated. Like,
Yeah, he was playing a back three. I remember. Yeah,
and I
with
remember the most the disciplined player he found was Fellaini. And
yeah,
Fellaini was very underrated by United fans, but he scored a lot of goals. And they used to say basically he just him and Ashley Young were very good at just taking instructions. Where and Ashley Young was saying this on Talksport, where he goes, Van Gaal extended his career by 10 years by making him a wing back, which became a full back. And he goes,
yeah,
just because of tactical understanding what I got from it, it extended my game. But not every player is bright, are they? And not every
yeah.
player is, I could be that. Maybe there's not a lot of instructions they can understand, and they need simplifying.
Exactly. So as and given United squad right now and the signings they could make, a back three would only work if they had very tall,
Fit
aggressive.
players.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, and also yeah, fit players as well. Yeah,
You know, just talking on fit players, what are your thoughts on Luke Shaw suddenly being fit?
I mean, I've sort of had enough with him. That's why I was going to mention either United try and get Robinson as a left back
He's
or
very
Nouri,
good at Fulham. He's very, very good.
or Nouri from Wolves. One of
Yeah,
those
yeah.
two, because United need to sort that bit out. Um, I
He's
mean,
never
Luke Shaw.
fit.
Sorry.
He's never fit, is he?
Yeah, now that he's fit, perfect timing for the Euros and the FA Cup final. I don't think he'll start for the FA Cup final. I really don't think. And if he does, and if he plays very well, that is very interesting.
I think Rooney was referring to him as one of the players that can probably play through and don't want to play. Did you see that interview?
No, I haven't. But
He
that is
goes
interesting. Yeah.
basically, there are players that are injured but can play and they don't play.
Oh, you're
And
always going to say,
because
"Oh, I have a little knock."
he goes,
Yeah,
you never 100%. He goes, it's
yeah.
impossible as a pro. You'll know this better than me. Even if you play, I play twice a week, and by the time it comes to the next game, you're never like 100% fit. And he was basically saying there are players there that are fit that can play and they
Oh,
won't play. And I think he was one of them that because I was looking at his record, he doesn't play more than like 50, 60 games a season. I mean, 50, 60% of the games a season.
wow. That's not. That's awful. That is.
Yeah, and he's been there like Luke Shaw's been there over 10 years and we're still trying to figure out if he's any good or not.
Yeah. That's why. Like last season, the season where obviously United finished third and everything, that was one of the best I've ever seen him play. He was playing left centre back. He was playing left back, very confident on the ball with Lissandro. They had a little partnership, and that's why like with what Luke Shaw, like I haven't seen him play this season, and I'm just looking at a fresh start at left back, either Robinson, Nouri, get one of them in, and then that's where you can really build something, you know. But
Yeah, because I think even just having fit players available, you know, and I'm going to give credit to Harry Maguire, who
yeah,
is mostly fit. Um,
yeah,
you can give him, people will give him abuse, and I think he's been very, very good this season. But
exactly.
normally he's always fit. Bruno Fernandez, and you know, I'm not his biggest fan, but he's always there. It's very rare. I think it was the first time we missed a game.
And
Um,
Garnacho, yeah.
Garnacho's another one. Apparently, Rashford's been playing with injuries.
Dallo has always been available.
Dallow's always available. But you know, Rashford was another one that there was like, oh, he's injured, he's injured. But fucking hell, injured. If injured is one thing, if the guy runs past me and I'm just walking, what's that got to do with the injury?
Yeah, no, no, no,
You know,
no,
his
yeah,
attitude and
yeah,
implementation. You know, if there's a player, if my fullback's in position and I'm just like, oh, whatever, you know, and I think he's another problem. I'm just gonna my last question then. Um, how do you see the final going from a tactical point of view on Saturday? Do you see?
yeah,
Do you? I'll refine it further. Do you see us with Amrabat in there, trying to get maybe four midfielders in there, not having a striker, similar to what Tottenham did as well against City, and they had good success where they didn't have a centre forward. Do you see us doing something similar like that, or
yeah. So, I mean, in the Manchester derby back in March, I actually literally in my match preview I said they should play Bruno McTominay and then in behind them Amrabat and Mainu. I literally said that,
four in the
and
middle? Yeah,
yeah, because Man City play four in the middle, therefore don't need to press the back three. Let them come, and then eventually they'll have to play a pass, and that's when the trigger is there. But hopefully, this level of instruction is given. Like this is
Mm.
what I mean. I would hate it to see players pressing randomly, thinking they could win the ball, and then Man City will just pop it around, and then that's it, game over. I think one of Man City's biggest threats is Guardiola at the moment. So Guardiola will either play very wide, then he'll drift inside, then he'll float as well. So that's something that I'm looking at. Maybe someone like McTominay or Amrabat to really focus on. And yeah, I'll keep Diallo and Garnacho very wide and hope for those breakout opportunities. And then it's just about individual quality, really. But am I excited? Not really.
yeah. I'd probably be more confident if Solskjaer was in charge, to be honest.
That's
Um,
true. Yeah.
you know, I felt he
Yeah.
always had a good grip of these kind of games. I think Amrabat's a really interesting player because I feel there was a lot of hype on him based on the France game he had and the Champions League final, Champions League, the Conference League
Yeah.
final last year. But in the Conference League final, if you remember, he was given a lot of space. West Ham just stood off him, and
Yeah,
he
that's
kind of
true.
dictated the pace quite easily. And what I saw against Brighton, and against Newcastle was when you press him,
He's,
he loses the ball. He's very
yeah,
good defensively though. So, but we don't really have any other option. It's not like we've got Amadou Onana in there or somebody that can really bite at him. It's only Ericsson and he's not going to get a game. And I think it needs something like that where we play with a false nine as Bruno or something. But I just don't see. He's not done anything different so far, so I don't see what he's going to do different suddenly now.
yeah. But that's the thing. I think if Amrabat had a consistent run of games under his belt,
Yeah,
I
potentially.
think, yeah, I think if you press him, then he would have been able to have that sharpness. Because yeah, as you said, against Newcastle, he was pressed a couple of times. He lost it in his own half.
Yeah, and
So
and he
yeah,
said as well, I've not had in 5 months. He goes, it was my first 90 minutes against
yeah,
Newcastle. So you got to give him the benefit of the doubt. But my point is that he probably offers more defensively, and
yeah,
than somebody else.
yeah,
Actually, who should have, who we could do with is somebody like Fred, a lot of
yeah.
engine. He wasn't very good on the ball, but again, you can put him onto somebody like De Bruyne because you need to cut De Bruyne out of the game. You
And then
know,
what about Foden?
yeah, but what I mean is, if you can stop the ball getting to Foden,
Yeah,
it's a good start, isn't it? But I think they're gonna have to have an exceptional game. I think it's gonna come down to United on individual brilliance of somebody like Fernandez, Ahmad, Garnacho, who are all capable, but tactically, I don't see anything different. I think City probably didn't even train for this. They're probably still getting drunk on this from Sunday. Honestly, I don't see City even
yeah,
training for this because you know what they're gonna do. It's not like they're gonna change anything, and it's gonna be a shame. It's gonna be a shame. We where do you see United if we have a good summer, good setup, good manager? Where do you see us finishing next season? Ideally, realistically.
exactly what Tottenham have done this season. That's what I see. Yeah, maybe pushing for fourth, but then you slip up because you're still in a transition. So there'll be instances where fourth spot is available, and then it'll be fifth or sixth, and then it'll just be something like that. But then once again, a- as proper Man United people, we're happy if we see an identity, if we see a project, we are fine. Just like Tottenham and Postecoglou. Like, if I was a Tottenham fan, I would be so relaxed because I know Postecoglou, give him another summer window or another window as well, he would be, he's the man. And I just want at United someone with an identity, someone with a mentality, and yeah, we'll literally stick by him.
Yeah, well, Ten Hag was supposed to have that, wasn't he? I think.
Yeah, that's why I'm just so confused. Like, it's very unexpected for Ten Hag because I never thought Ten Hag would have been this type of a manager. That's why I'm sort of disappointed by him as well. It's a strange one.
You know, I think realistically, I think one thing that would work in United's favour is not being in Europe, uh,
Yeah, that's
because
another
that
thing
you'll
as well.
get you'll have to work with a smaller squad. A lot more players will probably want to leave, and also you'll get more time on the training pitch.
Exactly.
Um, I know 2 games a week managers love them because it gives you rhythm, but United just need time, and then I think being out of Europe would work really well for them. Where
Exactly,
they can,
because Conference League would have been Thursday night as well. So it's
yeah,
nah.
and then there'll be an expectation of United to play good players, turn every team over. I think if they're just out of Europe, like Tottenham were this year, um, like Chelsea were, it just gives them an opportunity to really fine tune the team and spend time on becoming a better team. What's your prediction for the final then?
3-1 City.
Oh,
Yourself?
I think 3-1 by half time is probably what I'm thinking.
Oh no.
No, I think it'll be about 2-1, 3-1.
Yeah.
Um, I don't, and I think, and that'll be end of the season, and hopefully we get a clarification on the manager on quite soon after. So, sorry, go on.
Yeah, because the transfer window as well is very important. The manager needs to be there, so then we can sort that bit out as well. Otherwise, it's just like we're
Yeah,
lagging.
the transfer window is important. I think speaking to players is important. They want to know who they're playing for, and I
Yeah,
think just for stability wise, and to give Ten Hag respect, is important. He knows what's
yeah,
happening next as well because there are jobs out there he could take as well.
yeah.
If
Yeah.
if people want to follow you, find out more about you, what do they need to do?
It's just either Instagram, TikTok, or YouTube. The honest football coach, and that's it. That's
Yeah,
where
you
I am.
can't miss him. He's doing a breakdown of every game. Raf, it's been a pleasure. I'm sure we'll do this at some point next season. Um,
100.
I'm looking forward to the Euros more than anything now.
Yeah, me
And
too.
they're
Yeah.
about 2 weeks away. But look, it's been a pleasure. Thank you very much. And we'll do this again very soon.